6 o'clock. Michael, Naomi, you ready to go?
Yes, we are, Mayor.
Okay, I will call the November 9th, 2021 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, and Councilmember Briles will lead us tonight.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Naomi, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vanel,
Here.
Councilmember Bond,
Here.
Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Briles,
Here.
Councilmember Morgan.
Here,
Councilmember Morgan, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Fantastic. Okay, we will begin with audience communication. Anyone like to address the council tonight? Barb is quick to the draw as always. Anyone in the audience like to? Seeing none. Barb, go ahead, name and address, and try to keep your comments to 3 minutes if you would. Unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. Barb Heidel, 1401 144th Place, Southeast Mill Creek. Thank you, Mayor. When is the city going to get out of trying to run the police department? One would think there is enough to do handling city issues. Is the city trying to get rid of all the police, especially the chief? Is there no respect, trust, or confidence in the ability of the chief to manage the police department? Is there any reason why you wouldn't let the chief do his job? On another issue, when is the city manager's review evaluation to be completed? There has been nothing brought up by the council at a meeting. There has been this has been going on since May. The toxic environment is devastating to our city and employees. Why aren't you, as a council, doing anything that we can see? What is it going to take for you to act? How bad does it have to get before you will do something? Your job is to advocate for this city and all the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Anyone else like to address the council? Going once, twice? Seeing none, we'll move on to the next agenda item. I wish we had a camera to show the crowd in the audience tonight for their next presentation, so I'll turn it over to the city manager and chief.
Thank you, Mayor. Just very briefly, I had an opportunity to participate in a command level interview and observed the quality of the responses, deferring to the chief, as has been my practice to support the chief in making the decision he did. We are very proud for Chief Young to present on behalf of the newly promoted candidate. Chief?
Thank you, City Manager, Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. Thank you for having us here tonight. This is a very proud moment for us. I am delighted to promote to the rank of Police Sergeant Corporal Ian Durkee. Corporal Durkee has served with the Mill Creek Police Department since 2007, and he has served in a wider range of roles. He has served as a detective, a training officer, canine handler, corporal, acting sergeant, and public information officer. Did I miss anything? Okay, hostage negotiator. So he's done a wonderful job. He's definitely going to be an asset to the position. So I'm thrilled to be able to promote him. We have in this envelope a certificate of promotion, a oath of honor that we've administered to him, and a memorandum indicating he's being promoted to the rank of sergeant. Corporal Durkee, congratulations.
Can't hear anything.
Yeah, it seems like the council chamber mic has gone silent. Hi, Barb.
Right now. Congratulations, Sergeant.
Should we do a picture with the
Uh,
council?
I'm not sure what our COVID protocol is for a picture right now. How can we do it?
I would like to do a picture.
How
We
can
can
we
put our
do
face
one?
masks on.
Mayor, I defer to the council in terms of their own comfort
Well, are
level.
you comfortable, Sergeant? Is everyone else comfortable?
Oh,
How-
absolutely. You kidding?
How do we
I'm
like
proud.
to do this? Should we just
I think
come
we should
down
go
in
down
front?
there and take a picture. I put my face mask on.
What? I bought- I've already had it. 16 shots this time. Oh, I shot everything. Thank you for doing that. Can we go with them during the party? Should have it. all. Gosh. I think they're gonna go back and celebrate.
Okay, next up on our agenda is a proclamation in honor of Veterans Day on Thursday, so I will read the proclamation. Whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining our freedoms and way of life. And whereas tens of millions of Americans have served in the armed forces of the United States during the past century. And whereas hundreds of thousands of Americans have given their lives while serving in the armed forces during the past century. And whereas Washington State is home to more than 544,000 veterans, 60,000 active duty military, 18,000 National Guard and reserves and their families. And whereas our veterans are brave and selfless individuals who, when duty called, willingly put themselves in harm's way to defend the lives and liberty of others. And whereas our veterans understand the important task before the American servicemen and women now keeping watch. And whereas all Washingtonians must strive to ensure that ours remains a land worthy of great love our veterans have shown for it. Now, therefore, I, Brian Holtzclaw, the mayor of the city of Mill Creek, on behalf of the city council, do hereby proclaim November 11th, 2021 as Veterans Day and encourage the community to acknowledge and honor the contributions of our veterans to the principles of democracy, individual freedom, and human rights. So thank you to all the veterans, and I proudly sign this proclamation on behalf of all of us.
I know that Councilmember Cavalieri is a veteran. Do we have any other veterans on the council? We have our tech guy, Joe's a veteran. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Any other missing any veterans? All right. It's good to recognize you guys. Nicely done.
Bear with me 1 second, forgot my password.
Is Will a veteran? Is Will Nelson a veteran?
Yes.
I was thinking he is. Thank you, Will.
Okay. Where are we? Okay, moving on to some appointments, the A and B board appointments. Councilmember Steckler?
Thank you, Mayor. Today, we had a number of candidates who were reviewed for selection on the Arts and Beautification Board. Members included the mayor, Holtzclaw, council member Morgan, myself, and our board liaison, Jody, was also there. We have selected two candidates that we would like to, that we decided to move into the Arts and Beautification Board. We are happy to announce that Stephen Abramowitz, I believe I said that correctly, who is a resident of River Crossing. And we also are happy to announce that Guy Armfield, who is the current chairman, who will also be returning to continue his role as chairman, who is also a resident of River Crossing. We also have the opportunity to announce to the city that there is still one open position in the Arts and Beautification Board. So there is still an opportunity for another citizen who wishes to come forward to apply for the board. We would welcome them on the board. But at this point, I'm very happy to announce both Stephen and Guy to the Arts and Beautification Board.
So that is your recommendation to the council, and is that a
That's
motion
my
as
way of,
well?
yeah, that was my way of saying a recommendation to the board if they approve.
I'd like to second that.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? It is approved 7-0. Mayor Pro Tem, with regard to the appointments to the Parks and Rec Board, did we decide to defer those till?
Yes, Mayor. We decided that we held our interviews this evening, Councilmember Cavallari, Councilmember Briles, and myself. And we had some great candidates, and we informed them that we will be making the appointments for the Parks Board at our next meeting on the 23rd. So we will be making our appointments on that evening. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that brings us to our public hearing. City Manager, do I just jump right into the process?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. Tonight, the City Council will hold two public hearings. The first public hearing will be on the 2022 property tax levy. The second public hearing will be on the 2022 Emergency Medical Services, or EMS levy. The hearings are required by statute. Public notice of each of the hearings was published. The process that we'll use tonight will be as follows. First, I will ask for a motion to open the public hearing on the 2022 property tax. There's a second and an affirmative vote. We will receive a staff report from the Finance Director, Laurel Gimzo, regarding the property tax, the council's options, and the schedule for adoption of an ordinance. We are not being asked to adopt a property tax ordinance tonight. Next, I'll invite the public to offer testimony on the property tax. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Once all the public comment has been received, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. After the public hearing is closed, if public testimony has generated any questions from the council, there will be an opportunity to ask questions of staff. Once this is completed, we'll go on to our second public hearing. The second public hearing is on the EMS levy. Again, I will request a motion to open the public hearing. If there is a second and an affirmative vote, we again start the hearing with a staff report from Director Gimzo. Next, we'll hear from any member of the public in person or attending on Zoom interested in testifying during the hearing. Once all testimony has been received, I'll ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Once the hearing is closed, council will be provided an opportunity to ask staff any questions raised during the public hearings. Are there any questions? Seeing or hearing none, is there a motion to open the public hearing regarding the 2022 property tax?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That so opens the public hearing. I'll turn it over to our Finance Director.
All right. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right, so today we're going to start with the regular property tax. I do have both property tax, the regular property tax and the EMS property tax in this presentation, so I will flip around a little bit. So for this hearing, we're going to be looking at 3 different options. We have a 0% levy increase, a 1% levy increase, and then a 1% plus our banked capacity. So at this point in time, staff is recommending a 0% increase with the community still recouping from COVID and with COVID still being an issue. And from here, we're just going to jump into our schedule. All right, so initially we did have our preliminary revenue sources and expenses reviewed at our October 12th meeting. So tonight we're going to review property tax revenue scenarios for setting the regular property tax and the EMS property tax. We will need to set the levies by ordinance at the November 23rd meeting. So that'll be our next meeting, where we'll also review the proposed budget amendments with the different impacts the tax increases would have on our fund balances. So on November 23rd, we'll also have our public hearings on the budget amendment and the CIP amendment. So any budget changes requested by council at the 23rd meeting will be put in place before the final budget adoption on on December 14th. And we do have until December 31st, if needed, for the budget amendment adoption. But with the holiday season, we may try to stick to the 14th. Okay, so as far as property tax goes, some basic information is the property tax levy is based on an absolute dollar amount. So if the assessed value changes, that does not change the absolute dollar amount that we can increase taxes by. So no matter what, that absolute dollar amount cannot be increased by over 1% unless we go to voters and they approve that increase. So for example, if assessed value or the total property of property values within the city goes up, the next year your taxes can only go up by 1% of the absolute dollar amount. And that comes from the highest lawful levy that we get from the county. So this is an amount based on what could have been levied in previous years. Okay, so there are three main components of your property tax. So it is the levy amount. So that is the revenue the city uses to provide services to citizens out of the general fund. Assessed value is just going to be your property values within the city. And then your levy rate is the rate our community pays per $1,000 for property taxes. Okay. So if we decide we do not want to go ahead and take the 1% increase in taxes, we do have the ability to, it's called banking our unused capacity. So if we don't take the increase, we take that amount and we set it aside for the next year. So if we decide next year in 2023, if we decide we're going to need more money, then we can go ahead and use all of our banked capacity if council wants to do that. So currently there is about $65,613.35 in at that 1% max for the regular property tax, and then $10,547 for the EMS. So it's a total of about $76,000 that we can bank if we do not use or if we do not levy that full 1%. Okay, so there are different tax code areas in Mill Creek. I think there are about 8 of them. And I did only do one just because it gives you a good idea of out of every dollar that you pay for property taxes, about 18 cents is related to the city of Mill Creek. And that is for both EMS and the regular property taxes together. All right, so for an example, the property taxes here, if we have 2 different houses, the assessed value is $100,000 together for both properties. We've decided that taxes needed are $200. So the levy rate would roughly be $2 per 1,000. And if you take the $200 that is needed and you divide that by the assessed value, then you're going to get your property tax amount that each citizen will pay for his or her house. Okay, and so this is going to be per 1,000, this bottom piece. So that is something to remember. So in the second year, we're going to have taxes are going to go up by 1% because you do have that $200 that was levied the previous year. So you have a 1% cap, and your assessed values on the properties have changed. So this is the main change here. Okay. So Now we have an assessed value of 200,000 instead of 100,000. And the city needs $202 in revenue. And so that does result in $1.01 per house, or I'm sorry, $1.01 per thousand. And so that's going to result in your property taxes for the house that's worth 150,000 of roughly 150. And then a house with an assessed value of 50,000 at $50.50. Okay, so from here, this year, our assessed value was 4.6 million. And then we levied 6.4 million. So our tax rate is $1.38 for the regular property tax. So that is for a house that's worth 500,000. That means their property taxes were $692.72 for the general fund for your regular property tax levy. So once the county assessor has finished looking over all of the city's properties, we do have new construction of about 25 million. And then we have a revaluation for 410,000. So the farm did help us out here for this next year. We've got an increase in assessed value of about 9.35%. So that does spread out the tax burden for each citizen. Okay. So at this point in time, for next year's taxes, the preliminary assessed value is now 5 million, about almost 5.1 million. So our highest lawful levy has a 1% levy increase that is allowed, and that would give us $65,613.35. So with our regular levy that we collected this year, plus the 1% increase, we would have $6.5 million potentially. And that would result in a rate of 1.27. Okay, and then for reference, that is lower than this year at 1.38. So in 2022, if you have a house that's worth 500,000, you would have been paying, or you would pay about $639.91. But at this point in time, with the increase, we are looking at the average house price going up a bit. So that's why we bumped this to 544,000, so that you would see that your property tax would be closer to $696. Okay, and that is in reference to 2021. So the taxes residents pay currently are about $753.75 for a house that is 544,000. So the decrease is related to the increase in assessed value. So because the property tax, or because the property value increased, your property taxes go down.
Cavallari has a question.
Bond.
Oh, Councilmember Bond, I'm sorry.
That's right. I know the answer, but we've got some folks listening. If you would be so kind as to answer, somebody might be looking in going, well, that just doesn't make any sense. I know I paid $4,500 in taxes last year. You want to tell them how that happened, or I can?
So I think you mean, so this is just the city related portion of your property tax.
We citizens voted on ourselves, like the library and the school and other
Correct.
bills. They take the other 3,000 and change that the average homeowner in Mill Creek is paying. Sometimes it's just good to remind them, because sometimes they forget and they just look at that big tax bill and they forget that the lion's share of that they brought on themselves. We didn't put it on them.
Correct. Yes. And the city portion of every dollar paid this year is 18 cents for every dollar. So we
I
are,
heard you say that and I appreciate that. That was a good number.
yeah, so it is just a fraction of your property tax statement.
Yeah, Laurel, I think there's one other thing we need to point out, and we do this every year, is looking at that second line. I think some members of the public have a misperception of what the 1% increase means. It's not a limit on each one of our individual property taxes. It's a limit on the collective amount of property tax the city can collect. So that's why when you see the regular levy amount, 1% increase in our property taxes raises citywide $65,000+, which is then spread across, for some reason, the number of 4,300 properties in our city is sticking with my mind. So I think it's
Correct.
just important to remind people that 1% is not a limit on our individual taxes. It's a limit on the collective amount the city can collect.
Yes, that is a very good clarification. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and skip the EMS just because we're going to go over that in the next hearing. Okay, so for property tax scenarios, for the regular property tax for 2022, if we left the taxes as is and we collected the exact same amount, or if we levied the same amount as we did this year, we'd have the 0% increase. We do have an increase in our assessed value. So our lawful levy amount is not going to change. But then we do have a change. We do have additional construction money and refund money that we will receive even without a 1% increase. So this is a 0% increase with us only collecting the amount owed to us for construction and refunds. And that would give us 6.5 million. Okay, so that's just going to be what we levied this last year. So the 6.4 million plus the construction and the refunds. So it'll be a total of about almost 42,000 over 2021 or 0.65%. And I will note that our current baked capacity is at $103,000. And that is because we did not take the 1% increase over the last couple of years. Okay, so the next scenario is in 2022, if we did go ahead and increase regular property taxes by 1%. So again, your assessed value is going to be 5 million. Your highest lawful levy is not going to change. The previous year levy is what we collected in 2021. And then 1% of the highest lawful levy would give us $65,613.35. So if you add the 1% increase, your new construction, and your refund, that will give you the $6.5 million, which would result in about $107,528.80 over 2021 or 1.67%. Okay, and then the last scenario is if we went ahead and did the 1% and we used all of our banked capacity. So here, again, you have your assessed value at 5 million. Highest lawful levy isn't changing. So that is what your 1% increase is going to be based off of. So you have what we taxed this year at 6.4 million, plus the 1%, plus the banked capacity because we have not increased taxes over the last couple of years. And then we're going to also add the construction and refund amounts. And so that would result in 6.6 million or almost $11,000 with a 3.26% increase. And then I believe everything else is EMS. Do we have any questions?
If you could explain banked capacity a little bit for everyone, because that gets complicated even for me. So I imagine that those that are joining in are probably wondering about that themselves.
Yes. So each year, you can increase taxes without going to voters by 1%. And so if we did not use the $65,613.35, we essentially are putting that in a rainy day fund and saying, next year, if something happened and we really needed that money, we're gonna stash it away and keep it as a reserve if it's something we really needed. So it gives us the ability to use those funds in the future without going to the voters, because each year your levy could, in theory, increase by 1%, and we have left it flat. So if you do have some kind of expense that was unexpected and you really need that revenue, that is a get out of jail free card, and it does not go away. And so it just keeps adding each year. I believe last year your banked capacity was around 73 or 75,000. And so if we did not, I think I had an amount somewhere. So you would just add the $65,613 to that $103,222.96. Is that more clear? Or did I make that more confusing?
The process here, we're just studying these today, and on the 23rd is where we're going to get the presentation of the budget, the numbers. You know, what are we looking at financially? Do we need to take the 1% increase? Do we not? Blah, blah, you know, but we're actually going to vote too on that day as well. So we're going to get the information and vote on the same night. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. So
Yeah.
No,
we're
we
not
do-
making a decision tonight.
If there is a decision to raise well, no, we have to make a decision either way by the end of the month,
Right.
because the county has to have that information to set the tax rates for when they send out the tax notices.
So that's going to be, I just say, it kind of concerns me a little bit that we're going to get all the information and make the decision.
We
right
can
there.
always meet on the 30th.
We could make the decision on the 30th.
We could meet,
We do need to make the levy decision by the 23rd, just because I do have to have the ordinances to the county by their end of day, the 30th.
Yeah, but I really like to look at the numbers, study the numbers, understand the.
well,
budget
we don't
constraints.
get a full budget in this off year. We get the proposed amendments to the budget.
And we'll know, we're also going to get at least a 9-month recap. We haven't seen yet of where we at right now. How are we performing? I still don't know that yet. Are we way down? Are we way up? Do we need increases? Do we not? I think we need that before we can make a decision, don't we?
I believe that's going to be part of the information
That's what I'm assuming that on the 23rd, we'll get a 9-month year-to-date recap of actual
Oh,
performance.
We
line by
will
line.
go over budget estimates and because that's where our budget amendment will have those updated revenues at where we're projecting. And so we will have an idea of where we're at. And that will be provided in the presentation for the 23rd.
Councilmember Bond.
She answered the question. Thank you.
So I'll finish up my question then a little bit further. Should we have to make the decision on the 23rd. Should we get that information earlier? Should we meet earlier? Or do we just get the information on the 23rd and make a decision on the 23rd? I, for one, would prefer to get that information a little earlier and have time to digest it and study it before I make a decision about property tax increases.
City Manager, when do you anticipate having the information ready?
We had planned for the 23rd. I don't want to put our finance director on the spot here, but is it realistic to provide that data ahead of time?
I believe we were planning on posting that on the 19th so that you would have the 20th through the 23rd to look at it before the meeting. And then we would review that information on the 23rd.
Agree with Councilmember Steckler, if it is possible for us to get it a little bit earlier than that, so we have plenty of time to review it instead of just getting it on the Friday before the meeting, so that we have plenty of time to go through and evaluate and digest everything and come up and ask questions of you and others. If we do have questions, I think that would probably be beneficial for all of us and help us to move more quickly that evening when we're actually making those decisions.
Yeah, my concern is based typically when you give us, a year-to-date performance, we're going to give you like 6 or 7 takeaways of information that we still want to see, that we have questions on. And I doubt you'll have that at your fingertips. And that's something usually you go back and get for us and bring back to where we finalize the numbers. So it might make sense to get that information, or it might make sense to meet earlier.
Do we have a year-to-date financial summary that is available that we could get out to the council and publish sooner than that? City manager?
We can. put
Yes,
that
we do.
together.
I'm looking towards Laurel.
Yes, we can get that out.
How soon will it require, how much additional time, Laurel, before we can send that out? What do you need to do to get that updated? I know you've been working on it, but
Oof. Would the 17th be early enough?
I guess I think what you're hearing is the sooner we can get it out, the better. We want to be able to digest it, and sounds like there's more specific numbers that are going to come with your proposed amendments. But if we can at least see as soon as we can the baseline financial year to date, I think that's what you're hearing from people that would help facilitate our discussions on the 23rd. Am I capturing that correctly, Councilmember Steckler?
Yes. And most importantly, just even through September, give me the first 9 months, first 3 quarters. How are we faring against our budgets line by line? Where are we up? Where are we down? What are the issues? That would help us in making decisions on our current performance for what we might need for next year.
All right, and if we're just wanting a financial update, we should be able to do that by either Friday or Monday. And then we can do the budget overall on that Friday, or do you want the budget amendment information before that Friday also?
Again, I think what you're hearing is the sooner we can get that out, the better. I think if we can get the information out so we can digest it, we may obviate the need for having to have a special meeting between now and the 23rd, but we just need to get that information out as soon as we can. So I think the low hanging fruit is just the current financials through the first 3 quarters of 2021.
I think you said it right, Mayor. Get the information in our hands as soon as possible. Let's digest it, see if it's clear to us, see if we need to have a special meeting for questions, or does that answer our questions? And can we just review that and come prepared on the 23rd?
and through the chair, we would make ourselves available for individual meetings and questions that any members of council might have ahead of that 23rd council meeting.
Okay, was there any more presentation on this aspect of the property taxes for 2022?
No, that was everything.
Are there any further questions from the council? Following our procedures, do we have a motion to close the public hearing on the general property tax levy for 2022?
So moved.
Mayor,
Second.
I'm hearing Grant.
Oh,
Yes,
I was
Grant?
gonna say, I think you need to.
Oh, the
invite
public. I'm
comments.
sorry. I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you. I see Barb chastising me up in the corner. I apologize. Getting ahead of myself. Now it is the public's opportunity to provide their input. And this is just the time to provide verbal input. You're always welcome to submit written comments or to reach out to us. So again, I apologize. So with that, there is no members of the audience, public in the audience tonight. So I will turn on to the virtual world to see if there's anyone online that would like to comment to the council tonight on the general property tax levy for 2022. Thank you, Grant. I'm not seeing any hands going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, now can I have a motion to close the public hearing, please?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? With that, the public hearing on the general property tax levy is closed. And now I'll ask for a motion to open the public hearing on the EMS tax levy for 2022.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, the public hearing is open. I'll turn it over to Director Gimzo to give the staff report.
All right, so I'm trying to get back. Give me 2 seconds. Okay. All right, so for the EMS levy, we're going to be looking at adopting a 0% levy increase or a 1% levy increase. We do not have any banked capacity on this levy. So I'm just going to go ahead and start where we left off for the EMS piece. So for the 2021 assessed value, we had 4.6 million. And then in 2021, the regular levy that was that we received was 1.7. So that's a tax rate of about 0.37, so about 37 cents. And so each home, it was about 500,000, got a bill for $186.96. We did have the change in assessed valuation. So we have new construction of 25.2 million, the reevaluation for 400 and almost 11 million. So again, our assessed value would be 5 million, almost 5.1 million, an increase of 9.35%.
Clarification point, that number right there at the preliminary assessed value, that is 5.1 billion, right?
Yes, you are correct. I am
Okay.
so sorry. I am missing some zeros there. Okay, here we go. Okay. So from there, with the 5.1 billion assessed value, a 1% increase on our highest lawful levy would end up with $17,398.84. So that would increase our tax amount collected to $1,760,391.68. So it would be about not quite 35 cents per thousand. And for a home that's valued at 500,000, it would be $172.68. With the increased valuation, we would expect a house that had been 500,000 to be roughly $544,050. So that would result in your tax bill being roughly $187.89. And that is in comparison to what citizens are paying today for their 2021 tax of $203.43. Our current levy is just at 37 cents per thousand. So that will be decreasing because the assessed valuation has gone up to the 5.1 billion. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so one option we do have is the 0% increase. So with the 5.1 billion assessed valuation, we do still have a highest lawful levy of $1,739,884.04. So previously we did levy 1.7 million. And I will say that this number is slightly larger than the highest lawful levy because of refunds. So that is something, your refunds do not carry over into your highest lawful levy. So that is where your 1% increase number is based off of, is the highest lawful levy. So here we have a 0% increase. So we're not doing any kind of tax increase, but we are still going to get the taxes that are related to the 2021 construction of $9,426.81. And then we will also get the refunds of $1,884.80. So this would result in us collecting about 1.7 million. It would be an increase of $8,202.81 over the 2021 amount that was collected. So this 1.7 million, and it would be about 0.47%. And again, we do not have any kind of banked capacity on the EMS tax because that is something that we have increased each year. So if we continued with the 1% increase, our assessed valuation doesn't change. Our highest lawful levy does not change. I just have our levy that was collected last year. And I will note this is the 1% of the highest lawful levy, not of what was actually taxed. So we would be collecting $17,398.84 for the 1%. We'd also be getting the construction and the refund amount for a total of $1,768,594.49. So that is an increase of $25,601.65 over the levy amount in 2021. And that would be 1.47%. And with that, I will take any questions.
Yes, Director Gimzo. My question for you is, what is our history on the banked capacity for the EMS levy? Being that we have current banked capacity of $0, I'm presuming we have taken the 1% most, if not all years, or at least in the last few years. If you could provide some background on that, that would be great.
Yes, so our current fire contract is for 2021 is at $4.1 million. Next year, we'll have an increase of 5%, and it'll be $4.3 million. So it's over 200,000, an increase of over 200,000. So typically, we do increase this to help the general fund pay for that service. As you can see, we have no banked capacity, so it has been increased each year. And if we did increase it, the EMS levy will cover 12% of the increase. So there's a 5% increase, and it'll pay for a fraction of that $200,000 increase.
Mayor, I've been around a little bit. I have some insight on this. We've always taken the 1%, and because it went directly to defer the cost increases from the fire service, we've never kept up with the increases. We could have taken the 1% for the EMS and the 1% for property tax. We still wouldn't be able to keep up with the increases.
Yes.
Anything further on this, Laurel?
I do not have anything.
Any other questions from council? I don't, oh, there's Adam on the screen. Adam, any questions? No. There it
No
is.
questions, Mayor.
Okay. Hearing no further questions, I will now see if there is any public comment. Would anyone in the virtual world like to comment on the proposed EMS levy for 2022? I'm only seeing one page on the screen. Going once, twice, three times. No public comment on the proposed EMS levy. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, we close the second of the two public hearings. So I think the same discussion we had earlier on the information on the financials applies to this. So the sooner we can get that financial information, the more educated we will be, hopefully the next time we meet. Okay? So we are moving back to old business as I get my agenda back up, which is the that was fast. The proposed resolution regarding the legislative police reform measures. So I think we have probably four options that we can consider. We can do nothing. We could move forward a resolution that as was originally proposed. We could move forward the resolution as I amended it, or we could move forward something different than what is on the table. So with that, I don't know if people want to discuss or put a motion on the table or see where we go. Council member or Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I was going to move to adopt the resolution that you revised. So I was wanting to make a motion for that resolution. But we don't have a number on it. A motion
Seconded.
Motion to approve the revised resolution.
That would be resolution 2021-612.
That's correct.
Did I hear a second from Washington, DC?
You absolutely did. Seconded.
Okay. So with that, we have a motion and a second. So the floor is open for discussion. Council, our Mayor Pro Tem, was your light back on, or did you want to speak to your motion? Your light is off. Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. I went over these a few times, the revised version, the original version, and then I went back to them again. The revisions in the red line, I'm not exactly quite sure what we were trying to accomplish in the red line version, because it seems to have tried to, I guess, for lack of a better term, tame what we believe is an exigent circumstance for legislation correction. The intent of the resolution from the other 7 cities that have already passed it and mirror images of one another were based on the need that we simply wanted to convene an emergency session. That's kind of the nexus, I guess, of the resolution to begin with. So while I don't disagree with all of the changes, I just don't think it gets us there and gets us parity with the sister cities in our community that are sharing the same woes that we are. So I'm not sure where we go with this here. I would prefer to just simply stick with the original resolution that the city of Everett and the other 6 cities have passed, and we'll go from there, but there's a motion on the floor, so we'll see.
Any other comments? Councilmember Steckler.
I'm just trying to read between the red line version and the original version and really try to understand the differences between the two.
You want me to speak to that since
Would
I
you
proposed
please?
the red lines?
Thank you.
So as it was originally put forward in the format that other cities passed, it was calling for a special session to be done before the end of the year. After talking with Representatives Lovick and Berg and considering the political realities, the likelihood of there being a special session and getting it done before the end of the year was slim at best. And I questioned whether or not they had gotten all the information they needed to know what it is they need to pass when they reconvene. So my focus with the amendment was to focus their efforts on meeting with the stakeholders. And that's part of the reason we had our meeting with them, to get them educated on what needs to be changed so that they will hit the ground running in January and act hopefully forthwith when they reconvene to pass the amendments necessary. So that was the main genesis, is encouraging them to use, or the main change is encouraging them to use this time to come up with a specific amendment so they can act quickly in January, as opposed to calling for a special session before the end of the year. Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. I kind of lean towards the original version. It would be my preference. I'm not against the watered down version. Our resolution asking them to do something doesn't mandate that they do it. The fact that we'd like them to meet tomorrow and fix this doesn't mean that they have to do it. So I don't mind that we're saying we want it this year, and knowing that probably that's an unrealistic expectation, but it communicates the sense of urgency that we share.
Before I get back to Councilmember Cavallari, I'm going to give others a chance. Councilmember Files, did you have any comments? You don't feel compelled. I'm just.
Yeah, no.
Before I go
don't.
back
I don't
to
on this.
Vince, I want to give others a chance to say something first.
Oh.
Councilmember Morgan, I see you waving your hand. Can see it across the country.
Yeah, thank you. I think I would have to agree with Council Member Bond and Cavallari that the main thought of this letter is to express the sense of urgency. Whether they can do it or not is a separate issue entirely. We need to really press the issue that they need to do something, they need to do it fast. So I like the verbiage of the original document as well.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. And I'll agree with the last two council members as well. Like I said, I don't disagree with the changes. If we were maybe in a different time, I just don't think that it addresses the urgency or the concerns that I would say probably 80% of the population that's represented has expressed in their sister or their, what I would call, I guess, a joint resolution. So I would hope that we might go back to the original one. I think that's appropriate at this time, and it really expresses the point we were trying to make to begin with. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, any further discussion?
Me.
Mayor Pro Tem?
Oh,
What?
Thank you, Mayor.
Oh,
Yeah, the reason why I had put up and was hoping to support the revised edition is because I do feel that, and I hear what you all are saying, what my colleagues are saying, but I do feel that a realistic stance is that I want to get something done with our resolution. And I feel like by supporting them to get up with everyone and to find out what they need to do, it is more, as opposed to asking them to do something that we know they're not going to do, it is a more realistic approach to actually accomplishing something. And a few things in the original resolution, for instance, it said the Attorney General had not given any guidance, but the Attorney General has given some guidance now. So I felt there were a few inaccuracies in the original resolution that are clear, they're clarified in the new resolution. So really my intent was supporting the revised one really is just to be more realistic on what they're going to do to get together and actually accomplish something so that we can resolve the ambiguities, because it's extremely important that they get out there and they talk to everyone and they come up with solutions. And I just didn't feel that us demanding that they do a special session that we know they're not going to do actually solves any of our problems. So that was my intent for moving forward the revised edition. Thanks.
Councilmember Bond.
Thank you, Mayor. Just another point of this, one of the reasons I support the stronger language. We did have the opportunity to meet with State Rep Levick and State Rep Berg, and I appreciate them taking time to come to our meeting and let us know that they do actually realize that there were some flaws in the legislation, and they shared a commitment to improving those shortcomings and fixing them. But we only got to talk to two, and there's a whole lot more that I want to get on board with the other sister cities in the Snohomish County and make sure that those other state reps understand what our concerns are as well, not just our two that made time to come and assure us that they understand the problem, but make sure the other folks are on board as well.
Councilmember Steckler.
Yeah, after thinking this through and listening to everybody, I've kind of changed my opinion a little bit, and I'm going to say that I did like the changes in the revised proposal because they addressed more specifically the ambiguities, the clarification, some of the lines such as it's difficult to retain and recruit officers, to actually implement police practices. I thought some of that verbiage was excellent, but after listening to everyone else, I like all the new changes, but I kind of I'd like to see that action put back in that was in the original in section A and B about, yeah, I see the point of we want a special session. We want the governor to the legislation make the same request of the governor. I like the action in it. I think that's strong and powerful, but I sure like some of the clarification that was in the rewritten one. So I think I am leaning, if I had to one, I would lean with the action. I like that. This is a big deal. This is a very tough deal in our police department. It's making our city policing much more difficult. So I do now lean towards the action. I like the urgency in it. I agree. So I'm not leaning towards that, but I got to say, boy, I like some of the clarity in that second version. I think there's some smart writing in there.
Councilmember Briles.
I did want to bring up, I know we did say some other cities have passed this, the original version. And at the same time, there have been some cities that chose not to bring it up, some cities that have voted it down, and the county voted it down. So just for the record, it is not everyone who has looked at this has decided to pass it. It is not in any way unanimous across the county, the state, or any other form. And I think it important that we think about what's right for Mill Creek. And I think the revised version is the best for Mill Creek.
Councilmember Cavallari.
Thank you, Mayor. Good comments, Councilmember Briles. I hadn't even thought of that piece of it, but personally, I look if I were on the legislature or the members of this dais were put in the same position, I know 7 members here would say, hey, we need an emergency session to fix this. We don't want people getting hurt on our watch. If we can curtail or prevent one injury, it's all worth it. You know, these are paid legislators. They've had since June to fix some of the complaints, some of the ambiguities, whatever word we're using, but a lot of cities have just simply found it problematic and difficult to deal with, and it probably has created more victims than it's helped. So again, our goal is to express the urgency, and I like that there's kind of some collective guidance here from the county. Thanks.
Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion for the revised resolution, please say aye.
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 Those opposed?
Nay.
Hey,
Nay.
That is a fourth vote from Washington DC. So the motion fails 3-4. Are there any other motions?
So Mayor, on that basis, I would make a motion to adopt the city of Everett's language and of course make the changes with the city of Mill Creek in its place to approve that ordinance 2021-612.
second.
Any discussion? No additional discussion. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed?
Nay.
I think that's all 7 of us voting. So the motion carries 6-1. So that puts that matter to rest for the evening. Consent agenda. Item J, approval of checks number 63941 through 63974 in ACH wire transfers in the amount of $206,308.09. The audit committee was myself and Councilmember Morgan. Any exceptions?
No exceptions, Mayor.
No exceptions here. Item K, payroll and benefit ACH payments in the amount of $187,585.84. Any exceptions?
No exception.
No exceptions. And the city council meeting minutes of November 2nd, 2021. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. The only item I have for my report tonight is, I think we're in the process of scheduling the town hall for next Tuesday night, but I will now put an asterisk behind that, depending on what we have to do or not do with the budget discussion. So hopefully we won't need to have a special meeting, but one or the other will occur on the 16th. Mayor Pro Tem, any report tonight?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to throw out here that I realize we have a lot on our plate for the next couple of months, but I do think it's important that we somehow figure out a way to come together and work on a legislative agenda at some point so that we can actually set into motion what we would like to be asking of our representatives. Actually, this motion or tonight, this resolution tonight would be something good to point out that could maybe be part of our legislative agenda, and make sure that we have our priorities in order for the things that we want to work on and ask money for coming up. It's extremely important that we have those down and ready so that we can ask for funds from the state and the county. And that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you for reminding me of that. We have 5 weeks this month, and we have a lot on our agendas before the end of the year, and there's some vacations coming up that'll cause some meetings to be missed, particularly around the holidays. Are people's schedules available? I don't know that we need to set one yet, but if we had to or needed to meet on the 30th, the last Tuesday of the month, would that work for people?
I'd be 100% supportive of it.
So Mayor, I can do the 30th.
Yeah.
Currently have a conflict with the 7th. So I'm trying to resolve it, but that one could be problematic for me.
That might be a good change because I will be gone on the 7th as well.
Got 2 new members. too.
I'm in charge that night.
Yes, you are. So, so as of now, the 30th is a viable option if need be. Okay. Thank you for reminding me of that, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Bond, any report tonight?
No report, but thank you to Director Gimzo. Property taxes are hard to understand. I think I'm the closest now that I've ever been to sort of understanding them. And maybe even some of the folks that haven't heard property tax explanations might actually understand it a little too. So thanks for taking the time to break that down and help us understand what is really a rather unusually complex tax structure thing that we deal with. Well done.
Councilmember Steckler.
Just a couple of quick things. I did see that we have the Veterans Day get-together ceremony. I believe that is Thursday next week. I'm looking
No,
this
this
week. I mean,
Thursday.
this week, yes. This week, I'm sorry, I said that as soon as I said it. I'm looking forward to seeing everyone there. I'm really glad that we're doing some more social functions in the city, getting together. I know there are COVID guidelines and such, but I'm really happy. I just want to put my voice in for pulling the community back together again and getting together in our town center and our various areas whenever possible. We can mask up, we can do whatever is necessary, but it's important for us to come together as a city. I think it's a very positive healing practice, especially with the holidays coming up. There's some activities I know that we're looking at and making decisions on. I hope that we'll continue with some of the greater traditions that we've enjoyed during the holidays. Also, I was going to make a request. I would like to get an update soon on the Mill Creek Boulevard project. I haven't seen or heard anything on that, but I sure get a lot of emails from people asking me questions that they've seen or heard about it. So I know it's a lot of hearsay. I think it's just a lot of rumor mill. I'd love to get an update on that to the council and to the public, as as soon as possible. I know it's been quite a while since we got an update on that. That's it.
Councilmember Cavalieri.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you to the past council members that just spoke up here. I think your words really echo. They echo with me about coming together and just trying to do the right thing for the community. Councilmember Vignal and I had started working on this little, let's call it a fantasy project for the CIP. Something that had been tabled a while ago, Cougar Park 2, and we thought that the marriage of Cougar Park 2 and the need for pickleball in the community might be something we might try to get on this year's CIP, start looking at things like that, probably bring a nice new shiny toy for the city at some point. They deserve it. They've been locked down for quite a bit, and there's been quite an ask for it. So I'd like to see us talk about that in future discussions. Regarding the legislative needs to the legislature, I echo those as well. And I believe we talked about even bringing on a consultant or advocate, whatever the word we used, to represent the city in Olympia. I'm still open to that. I think we still approve. I thought we approved it. I maybe forgot about it. So those things, Cougar Park 2, I think would be an addition to the city and really fill a void which people seem to be voicing. Thank you.
On that note, Councilmember Cavalieri, Councilmember Mead reached out to me. He is going to have in the budget some money similar to what Councilmember Ryan had a few years ago that was, well, we'll just leave it at that. And so he has asked for us to identify projects we might want to have considered for those funds to be used for. So be thinking about that. We would have to make a decision if it's not in our CIP, have it our CIP amended before the end of the year. So I believe we'll be having this on an agenda possibly on the 23rd or the 30th. So if you have ideas or suggestions, get them to the city manager. Councilmember Briles, any report tonight?
No report, Mayor.
Councilmember Morgan,
No report, Mayor. Thank you.
city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I did want to address the Veterans Day event on Thursday. We're inviting the entire community and especially our members of City Council to join us in honoring all who have served in our city's annual Veterans Day celebration. This will include the simulcast of Chaplain Nick and Nick Lewis and our bugler, George Moffett, which will be on the city's Facebook page beginning at 9 a.m. That will last approximately 30 minutes. And then a meet and greet, which will begin at 10:30 a.m. to 12:30 p.m., located at the Starbucks Mill Creek Town Center at 15517 Main Street. I also want to, just by reference, incorporate a couple of reports for the council. This is a second time that I've sent out the DRCC project recommendation to advance to feasibility master planning phase. Well, we are asking, and we will include in the budget, some recommended funding for architects, planners, and engineers that we believe would be best secured through an RFQ process. We are looking to actually address more paramount concerns relating to work on our fire agreement, as well as other important matters before we would begin that. I do want council, however, to see the memoranda because it will give you some advance information as we discuss this, the budget overall and our recommendations in future council meeting. I also wanted
So
to note,
Michael, before you move on from that, so that would be part of the budget amendments we discussed on the 23rd.
yes,
Yeah, so I mean, the intent was to, what we asked for is to put together a proposal to continue advancing the DRCC, should we choose to next year, with the eye towards seeing if we could get it advanced to the point where we have something that we could go to the legislature in 2023 and begin looking for funding. So this was staff's attempt to put together a summary of what they estimate that cost would be to advance us the next step. So it would be one of the budget amendments we'll discuss in 2 weeks. Sorry for the interruption.
No, I appreciate that context, Mayor.
And just as a point of clarity on that, we had that fantastic meeting where we came up with a number of ideas, but I haven't seen that we've had a follow-up meeting from that to gain agreement on the consensus of those ideas. And before we move to a consultant phase, I'd like to make sure that council's in consensus on next steps of what we wish to pursue. You did a great job of identifying the ones that kind of rose up to the top, but I think we need to make sure that those all or some want to be pursued.
Agree.
Yeah, and it's really to your suggestion, Councilman Steckler. We're trying to incorporate when that would occur in context of the really the important heavy lift we have in a couple of items that we believe we should focus on first. So that's going to be the recommendation. We'd come back and have what was and is still intended to be the part 2 of the mini retreat on this topic. In this memoranda is really to capture the work and memorialize it that's occurred thus far. Also in the report section, Director Mike Todd has provided a written update on the Jackson High School crosswalk. Our intention in providing the written report was to afford council the opportunity to read it, and the Director Todd is then available for any questions that based upon that written report.
Any questions on that report? Not seeing any.
Okay. And with that, I conclude our report. Thank
Okay.
you.
Councilmember Steckler, following up on your comment about the sub area, I'm trying to remember when the work group last met. It was either late September or early October to go over the recommendations, and we requested staff put together some revisions to refine the document to provide some context for the recommendations being made. So I have not seen that revised draft. So the intent is to bring that back to council before the end of the year.
Great.
So it is in the works.
Could I ask a question of the city manager?
Yeah.
Great job on all this. One other issue that's kind of outstanding. Can we get an update on Silvercrest? I know we had a couple of grants on that. I don't know where we are with the particular project, if the grants are still going to be able to move within an extended time period, or when we're going to be working with the park, or just would like to get an update on that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Actually, in that vein, I see the chief on the call. Could we get I never heard what happened with that fatality accident on 35th by North Point a couple weeks ago. Is there anything background of what can be provided of what happened there?
Good evening, Mayor. We have no real update on that at this point. I mean, we know that there was a 2-vehicle collision at this time. We're still assessing whether or not alcohol or speed was a factor. I'd have to check with Detective White on that to find out what any update she may have on that.
Okay, thank you.
But
And that is one of the items that we could consider possibly using funding for, is those mid-block crossings. I believe that's the second fatality we've had in less than a year on 35th, if I recall correctly. So that's something that could be considered for the use of those funds. And there's one other, Director Todd had thrown out the suggestion of the improvements we talked about a few weeks ago to the library. I'm checking with Councilmember Mead to see if that would fit the parameters of the way they described the budget amendment. So those are a few of the ideas that have been floated that we can talk about in a couple of weeks. City Manager, was that the extent of your updates?
Yes, that is, Mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I just have a point of order real quick?
Yeah.
Just an inquisition to the city manager. If we could also get a farm mitigation update as well. I was going to save this for the 23rd, but I forgot to bring it up last week. So no time like the present.
What do you mean by a farm mitigation?
So the space we have for the nature reserve, when's it going to open? When are we going to have access? I think the public, I've heard from several folks now. I've heard from quite a few folks that the date keeps getting pushed back, and I don't think anybody has any information. So
I think Director Todd turned on his camera right when you said that. Did you want to speak to that, Director Todd?
Yeah, just very quickly, can you hear me?
Yes.
Very quickly, we don't have the space. It is owned by the farm. It is theirs to take care of for 5 years, at least, before it could become ours. And so we should be careful about saying we and they. But yes, they've not opened it yet. They're trying to get the plants established. They have not yet had time to figure out a new gate and operating principles for the area. So they're keeping it closed until they're ready to have an opening. We anticipate a soft opening in the springtime when the weather's better and water won't be flowing through there because it is a wetland. But it will be up to the park. It'll be up to the farm to open that when they're ready.
Just to be clear, the ownership is different from the use. The intent is, regardless of the ownership, for it to be open to the public. They're just working on the details of when that would happen. Whether they dedicate it to the city to operate as a park is a separate issue.
Exactly right.
Okay, thank you.
Good point, though, to bring up. There's been a lot of talk about the farm for years. The farm is opened. I don't know if we have made any progress on our satellite police location that was offered out there that we were going to be taking advantage of, and if we were moving ahead with that, and if we want to do any kind of a public opening on that, or ribbon cutting, or anything to
rehash the discussion. It was a community space that had not been designated for a particular use. We had discussed whether or not the prior police chief wanted to use it as a precinct, and that had been discussed. But that, I believe, is not called out for in the development agreement. It was a community space, and it was up to us to figure out what that use would be.
I remember that dialogue. I thought we landed on the police at the end of it. I may be wrong, but I remember the discussion. And I remember that dialogue of the community space. So
Well, we will follow up to check on the
Maybe I stand
status.
corrected. So how about we just get an update on that space at the farm? Somehow it will be utilized by the city. How will it be utilized and when? And I don't know if the farm is, update on the farm as to their opening.
To the chair. Mayor, I can report that I have been in conversations with Jennifer at the farm. She has sent over a legal document which will be the subject of a future executive session on this very point. If that responds. I also omitted that I've asked Chief Young and Martin to provide an update on the status of the lateral hires, and I almost omitted that from my report. So with the council's permission, Chief Young, if you could get us started on the lateral update.
Hey, good evening. The update that we have currently is we have scheduled polygraph examinations for 3 of these 6 candidates that we have. We have 2 of them that are out of state, so we are currently looking for a polygraph examiner that's qualified to be able to conduct the polygraph examinations. I am sad to report that we did have 1 candidate unofficially withdraw at this point, so we're down to 5 people on the list. We have had an additional 5 applications come in over the weekend since between Thursday and yesterday. So we will be working on scheduling additional oral boards to put those additional 5 candidates potentially on a list. We have also sent out the personal history statement and pre-polygraph packets to our candidates that we are taking forward. And we're looking forward to getting everything else scheduled and on track and hopefully getting everyone hired here relatively quickly. And I'll take any questions you may have.
Chief, just for everyone's clarification, can you describe what the promotion we celebrated at the outset of the meeting means for what you're looking for in terms of positions right now?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So what happens here is it creates kind of a domino effect. So we already had a number of open positions at the officer rank. So with promoting Sergeant Durkee, that will create another officer vacancy. So we are currently also looking at putting on a corporal selection process. So we'll be moving people up in rank there, but all of the positions that we're hiring for will be filling at the officer rank.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Bet.
Any questions? Yeah, Councilmember Cavalieri.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I know we talked about it last week. Did we have another oral board? Yes, I guess it would have been yesterday for the new applicants, or is that pending?
That is pending. So what we're looking to do right now is schedule command level interviews for the 5 people that are remaining on our original list. And then we'll get the next round of official oral boards, which will be the scored portion of it, put together hopefully sometime next week or early the following week.
We've already done the first round of oral boards for the laterals. This is the second batch that we're scheduling for.
Just for council consumption, can you just like give a brief explanation of once you pass the oral boards, we make contact with the candidates, we have a physical health packet and all those things, and secondary oral boards. You explain just kind of what that entails and a time frame so everybody knows.
Absolutely. So what we're doing right now is we're taking everyone straight to oral board. If you're a certified peace officer, we will take you straight to oral board. Once that portion is completed, the civil service chief examiner provides us with the compiled scores, which we will then send out to the candidates. We route it through our HR department, and it lists the score. So each individual candidate will get their own score with a notification of an appeal process. The faster we get those out, the better, so we can keep everyone engaged in the process. Once they complete that particular phase, we try to move them into the background, which will entail sending out the personal history questionnaire, getting them linked up with a background investigator, scheduling the polygraph. Once they get through the bulk of the background investigation and the polygraph, they get to conditional offer of employment. And what that basically entails is that we say there's going to be some sort of an agreement between the candidate and the city that if they pass these next steps, which will be the full remainder of the background and then the medical and psychological exams, that they will be given employment with the city of Mill Creek. Once we get them hired, then we can get them right into the training program on the road, and they'll be in a uniform, so they'll be functional as police officers to be able to be on calls and be interacting with the public.
And members of the council, one distinction to make that is right after the oral boards, there's letters that sent out via hard copies in mail, USPS, also via email notifying the candidates of their scores prior to that period, that 10-day period where per the civil service rules, Rule 5, Sections 8 and 11, that give the candidates an opportunity to contest those scores in rankings. So it's that 10-day window that's really important that we're waiting for, which will expire this Friday.
So hang on a sec, but I've done these before. We're not paralyzed in that moment, right? We can schedule everything else, right?
Within that period of time, that is correct, sir. Yes, we can. We can continue to move on other parts of the process. Yes.
Right. And the reason, I guess I'm kind of expressing urgency here because I just started doing the background packet of I know someone that we lost, Sergeant Moore from Seattle. And I don't mean to say names, but what's going to happen as it starts to shake out if we're not Johnny on the spot with these laterals, they're going to shake off. So I guess I don't know how to keep expressing it as loudly as I possibly can, is that we will start to lose folks if we don't keep them interested. I would even say, Chief, I'm hoping that you're in phone contact with them, letting them know that these are like our guys do. That's hey, we're sending your paperwork in. It went out this morning. We do some follow up, working on your polygraph. You should have an answer in a day or two when that'll come up and so forth. So I'm not trying to gerrymander the process. I just want to make sure that we're moving forward. We're not stuck in that like your 10-day process there. I understand that exists with civil service, but it doesn't mean you can't be taking other steps in the interim.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I had fled my light. I want to actually express similar to Councilmember Cavallari that my concern that we are making sure that during this 10-day window that we are actually moving forward with everything that we can and not just waiting for the 10 days to pass, so that we are ready to jump on and move forward as soon as possible, so that we're not just sitting around doing nothing. I don't know the process, but I just want to make sure that we are continuing forward with all the aspects of background checks or anything that we need to be doing during this grace period, so that we're ready as soon as the grace period is over to offer the employment offers if we're ready to do so. So I just want to join in on basically just support with Councilmember Cavallari, since he kind of jumped in there when I had my light on. and express my concern that we are actually doing this and moving forward and not just sitting around waiting those 10 days. Thanks.
Okay, that concludes the staff reports.
Yes, Mayor, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Brings us back to audience communication. Would anyone like to address the council? Going once, twice, 3 times. Okay, we have to adjourn to executive session to cover 3 items. Discussion of status of collective bargaining negotiations pursuant to RCW 42.30.140 subsection 4. Discuss a potential real estate acquisition pursuant to RCW 42.30.110 subsection C. I think that's 1C. And to discuss the performance of a public employee pursuant to 423110 subsection 1G. Action may or may not be taken when we're done. Michael, how long do you need for your 2 items?
We're shooting to get it done in under 30 minutes.
Okay, so we will be in executive session till 8:30.
Oh, we can't hear you. Joe will be right there. I'm sorry, we can't hear you. If you could just wait 2 minutes. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Thanks for your patience.
I believe, who made the motion to extend the meeting till 10?
Benjamin?
Yeah.
Benjamin, and did we have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's passes 4-0, and we are going to extend the executive session till 9 o'clock.
Who seconded the? I'll find that. Thank you. Council's extending executive session for another 20 minutes. Council is extending executive session for another 10 minutes. Council is extending executive session until 9:40. Yeah, I can't unmute you guys. Okay.
Don't leave, Naomi. I have a file for you.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear Naomi, or is the audio on?
Yes, it is.
Okay, by my watch, it is 9:39. The council has concluded its executive session and without objection will be adjourning the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Good night, y'all.